Good evening, and I want to thank you all for coming. I am expecting a couple of board members I understand are on the way, but I want to thank you for coming tonight to the CEO Budget Forum to help developing the 2019 proposed operating budget. We have made and we continue to make every day progress towards our goal of outstanding academic achievement for all students. Tonight, your comments will help me and my team gather information on your thoughts, issues, and concerns as we craft this year's budget. Your comments, along with input from board members, school system staff, county officials, and many other stakeholders will also be used. We must produce a balanced budget, one that balances our limited revenue resources with our systemic needs. Thank you again for coming out this evening. I'll now ask Mr. John Pfister, the Director of Budget and Management Services, to provide a short presentation on the budget development process.
Thank you, Dr. Maxwell. The overview that I'm providing here is just some very basic high-level things, kind of to go through, the process. We're in the, I wouldn't say we're in the very beginning, but we're near the beginning of the process. We've been doing a lot of meetings and talking with all the stakeholders, and I just wanted to kind of give you an overview of, where we are tonight and process, and then ability for additional input on your behalf, in the upcoming weeks. So as we go through and develop the CEO's proposed budget, there's a lot of things that are taken into account, but foremost is the alignment with the strategic plan. Several years ago, we put in the strategic plan. It kind of is our guiding framework so that we make sure that all of the requests that are coming in from all of the departments, there is alignment with, again, our strategic plan so that we can ensure that we have outstanding academic achievement for all students. As far as our revenue is concerned, about 56% of our revenue comes from the state resources, that's state of Maryland. 37% comes from county. A small portion, 5%, comes from our federal resources, which is in our grants, which is mainly our entitlement type grants like special education and our Title I grants. And then very little revenue do we generate on our own. It's basically interest income, a little bit of revenue from renting out our buildings. So as you can see that, 93% of our revenue comes from the county and the state. So we're very, heavily relying on those two sources to fund basically our entire budget. During the budget review, it is quite extensive. We have thousands upon thousands of hundreds of account managers, and we review our budget with each of them. So we look for opportunities where we could reallocate resources as opposed to consistently ask for additional funds. So we go through an extensive process where they look at prior year actuals and realign funds across not only their individual department, but maybe the departments within a division so that we can use our resources the most equitable way possible. New for this year, you'll be seeing a 3-year expenditure projection looking forward so that we can get an idea of some of the things that we have in place, some of the things that we know that are coming, to get an idea of what our true needs will be as far as the school system. We also go in and look for areas that perhaps are not using the resources as efficiently as possible, so we look for those areas to either just, a cut or, again, reallocate those into different areas. We align our budget requests, again, coming back to the strategic plan. We ask that all budgets come with supporting documentation, must justify why these funds are requested and how these funds are, again, coming back to the strategic plan. We go through an extensive process of balancing because we must produce a balanced budget. We cannot run in the red. We cannot run a deficit. So we always are taking our true needs of the system versus what our expected revenue is. And as I mentioned before, we're heavily reliant on state and county resources to balance our budget. We look at things that have a higher priority. As with the limited funding, we have to fund those which we have a higher priority, such as our mandatory cost of doing business, and that's taking care of our employees and our benefits and making sure our electricity stays on and making sure our buses, have adequate resources to transport our students. And again, coming back with supporting academic excellence, I know we've heard it 3, 4, 5 times I've said it, everything that we are looking for aligns with our strategic plan. And again, it must be balanced. We have to balance our revenue and expenditures. When we get to that point, that budget is then presented to the Board of Education in December for consideration, which will be on December 14th in this room at 6 o'clock. And at this point, I will turn this over for Dr. Watts to make some additional comments, and then we'll begin to be able to hear from the audience.
Again, thank you all for coming tonight. This forum is to hear your comments regarding the FY 2019 Prince George's County Public Schools budget development. We have 8 registered speakers tonight. Speakers, you will have 3 minutes to present your comments to the Chief Executive Officer and staff. The CEO and staff will not address your comments. Please leave a copy of your statement in a file box located next to the microphone. Your adherence to these guidelines will enable the public comment process to move smoothly. If you are here and did not sign up to speak, there are other opportunities to submit your comments through scheduled public budget hearings in January and February. Our first speaker tonight is Tommy Malika. Yeah. Sorry.
Good evening. My name is Tommy Macula. I'm from Accokeek. Very happy to see my Board of Education member here, since it's light otherwise, so thank you. First of all, I wanted to give you some thank yous. As at least John Pfister knows, we've had an organization I'm involved with, Prince George's County Advocates for Better Schools. We've hosted budget Q&A sessions for the last 2 years, and I believe they've been very helpful. And we hope, and I hope that we can do it again this year. And so I do want to extend special thanks to Mr. Pfister for his role in making those events happen. I also want to thank you for the public engagement and public hearing you held this past year in June when the budget was being reconciled after the county budget was actually approved, because that's when the real decisions really are made. When we talk about the budget in January, we're talking about wish lists, and we are fighting over it and getting very excited about it, but that's always a wish list. And the June timeframe is really when the real decisions are being made. And so to have some public engagement and have the process be more open as it was this year, it was very helpful, and I appreciated that. So thank you. And when it comes to the actual budget, I have one main request. I'm kind of starting to repeat myself. I've been here many years talking about the very same things. I would just hope that you will really work toward maximizing the money going to the classrooms. There are at least 2 indicators that I think give us some real pause as to that there are some signs that maybe we are not as good as getting money into the classrooms as many other school systems. One indicator for that would be the proportion of the instructional salaries in the budget. So I would just like you to keep an eye on that, because that was going down for a very long time. I believe it has kind of stabilized, but I think that's a pretty clear indicator to see how much money is going into the classroom. And also the average class size. The Washington Area Boards of Education guide, it provides a fairly depressing picture about the development when it comes to our average class sizes when compared to other area schools. So clearly something is happening, that is, the money is going somewhere else. It's not going to the classrooms, and that is really where it matters. How many teachers we have, what the classroom sizes are, at the end of the day, as a parent and for the students, I believe that is really what matters. It's nice to have all kinds of exciting new programs, but they always require all kinds of administrators at the main office. What I believe we really need is try to make every effort to really increase the money that's going into the classroom. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Gerard Tyler.
Good evening. My name is Gerard Tyler. I am a PGCPS alum, Friendly High School Class 97. Don't let the gray hair fool you. And a parent of a 4th grade straight A scholar at Maya Angelou French Immersion IB PYP World School. Since I enrolled my daughter in Maya Angelou 5 years ago, I've been extremely impressed by the hard work and dedication of Principal Christie, teachers, and staff, despite the conditions and lack of funding for the school, which brings me before you tonight. Maya Angelou is severely lacking funding for technological needs. Currently, our middle school students are sharing Chromebooks, which are necessary for learning between 4 different classes. This simply means that when one class are using them, the remaining classes are not provided the tools needed to be great by choice. Given this fact, I am requesting that you allocate $15,000 in next year's budget to remediate this issue immediately. In addition, the students in our school are cramped. I've never seen a school with more makeshift classrooms than at Maya Angelou. And I want to emphasize the fact that just because our scholars at Maya Angelou exceed in their studies, despite these conditions, this doesn't constitute that the conditions of the school be ignored. I would like to request that you budget for the installation of temporary modules for our students so they can learn in rooms that are designed to be classrooms. As a member of the Maya Angelou PTSA, co-chair of our legislative committee, an active father, PG County alum, and most importantly, as a taxpayer, I look to the school system to address these issues in next year's budget so that our children can soar to higher heights and say to onlookers in both English and in French that PGCPS students are equipped to be great by choice. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, Hugo Lamb.
Thank you. My name is Hugo Lamb. I'm here to advocate for the Robert Goddard Montessori School, where my 4-year-old go to school. Some of the needs that we're seeing at the school is paid training for non-Montessori trained teachers. We want to thank the board for training 1 teacher and 2 administrators, but that is not enough. We need more trained teachers. We need a budget for training of our Montessori teachers at our school. Also, student-based budgeting is not equitable for our school. We need our pre-K, 3-year-old and 4-year-olds to 2 years counted in the student-based budgeting. Our 4-year-old second-year pre-K students are all-day students, yet they're not counted in student-based budgeting for specials, music, art, Spanish teachers. Yet these kids receive these services and are part of the load for these teachers. If you're going to continue with student-based budgeting, you have to count all of our students and account for the length of time they are at the school. It makes sense. It's the right thing to do. We need more money for Montessori materials. Montessori materials is a little bit different from other schools. They're not books. They're used on a daily basis. They get worn out and they get destroyed. They're expensive. And it shouldn't be on the teachers or parents by themselves to provide these materials. A budget should be created. Funding for these materials should be allocated. Also, keep the Robert Goddard Montessori schools as a single school in our building. The constant uncertainty of the swing spaces means that the beginning of the year is very disrupted. When 2 schools were operating in the building using 2 different school hours, there was major disruption at the Robert Goddard Montessori School by earlier dismissal of the other school. When other schools inhabit the space, this will continue to occur, which impacts all our students, especially our 4-year-olds. My kid is in the 4-year-old pre-K. A safe school has familiar faces. We all know that. When our workspace have familiar faces, we know everyone. When other people are rotating in and out, there are other faces coming in that we're not aware of in some cases. We do not have this when the school is in rotate in. We will not know half the people walking through our school walls. We have small children. They need a safe space. We have small children. They need a safe space. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker, Stephanie Lansing.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Lansing. I'm a parent of a sixth grader and a third grader at Robert Goddard Montessori School as well. And I want to start by saying this has been a wonderful year for my kids. My sixth grader moved up to sixth grade, and it started off very rocky when I was told she had 35 kids in her class. And she still has 35 kids in her class. But her teachers are phenomenal, and she's had a great year. But this should not, there also was only 4 teachers when she started this year. They moved up. But again, the student-based budgeting really impacts these small schools. The middle school has 93 kids in 6th, 7th, and 8th. So it makes sense. 93, you divide it by 4, say 4 teachers can handle that load. But the problem is we have 4 subjects to teach: science, social studies, English, and math, right? So how do you divide up these 95 kids with only 4 teachers, right? Well, so what they did was they kept all 35 sixth graders together. And the 8th graders, they divide into 2 classes because they have to get the 8th graders through through algebra. And so my daughter's not getting honors English. She's not getting honors math. We're all in one classroom. And so finally, this was the 6th grade math teacher had to teach 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because again, it's honors and non-honors, 6 levels of math. It was impossible. So the school did bring in an algebra teacher and pre-algebra teacher. So now we have another math teacher to support. But again, it was very disruptive because the first couple, months this did not happen. Now all the teachers are in. But again, I think the student-based budgeting, as he talked about with the 4-year-olds, and 4-year-olds not be counted for our specials, our art teachers teach everybody, and everybody should count. It really affects the middle school. So my daughter's in a class with 35 students, and the honors and non-students are not separated. And again, I'll say that the teachers have been phenomenal. I support the administration with the budget decisions that they made with the resources they were given. But the problem is the resources are just not enough. And really, as the first speaker said, we need more resources in our classrooms. We need our teachers to have the materials. We need our teachers to be trained. We need our teachers to have materials. They're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars out of their own pocket. And we need enough teachers to teach so that we don't have 35 kids in a classroom. And it really affects these small middle schools. And so, I would say, again, the teachers that we have done a phenomenal job, but we just need more resources because it's 35 kids, and honors and non-honors are not separated. And I think the teachers have done everything they can, but I think that student-based budgeting really needs to look at these special circumstances, and adding that 4th teacher shouldn't have been done very late in the game. And again, for our specials, we shouldn't have to buy out our specials so that our 4-year-olds can have that. That should be part of our permanent budget. So again, this is for Robert Goddard Montessori, but I'm sure the same thing is for other Montessori schools in the county. I really appreciate you training our teachers. That was amazing. We had 2 administrators and 1 teacher that went to training. We have way more teachers at the school that are not trained. So that's just the tip of the iceberg. So that needs to be part of the regular budget. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The next speaker, Tamara Johnson. Ms. Johnson? Okay. The next speaker, Alex Hurdle.
Good evening. My name is Alex Hurdle, and I live at Riverdale Park, Maryland. I have a 4-year-old daughter that attends the Robert Goddard Montessori School. And again, thank you for this forum this evening. I want to emphasize 4 budget priorities for our schools for the next year budget. First one is continual training of our Montessori teachers and administrators at the Berry School through a designated budget funding within our next year's budget. We cannot provide quality Montessori education without trained teachers and staff. Secondly, revised equitable school-based budgeting. In our Montessori school, we need our 3- and 4-year-olds counted in student-based budgeting. Our 4-year-olds are all-day students, but are not counted in student-based budgeting for special teachers, such as music, arts, and Spanish. The student-based budgeting formula needs to reflect all of our students and account for the length of time that they are in the school. Additionally, the current formula disadvantages small middle schools like Robert Goddard because it doesn't take into account the number of students in each grade, or the fact that they need all 4 core subjects plus 6 levels of math and English. Additionally, funding for Montessori materials must have designated budgeting. These materials are expensive. In observing my daughter several weeks ago in her classroom, I was unpleasantly surprised at the age of many of the materials in her class, how some workstations had missing or broken pieces, lost learning materials, and when questioning the teacher about this, I was told that they simply are not given the resources for replacements. Finally, request keeping Robert Goddard Montessori School as a single school in our building. 2 schools operating in one building with different school hours causes disruption, confusion, and distractions for our students. A safe school has familiar faces in it. We do not have this when students rotate in and out of the same building. Small children need a safe place, so we are requesting that our school become the single school in our current building. To finish, I want to remind everyone that the importance of properly funding our county schools in a fair and equitable manner. A Montessori education is a unique learning experience. We should know this because 2 of the founders of a little-known company called Google were Montessori educated. Imagine the possibilities if Prince George's County, if a few of our students educated in properly funded schools in our county started a company that was like Google. We could rely on economic development through homegrown talent instead of chasing out-of-state companies like Amazon and others. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Luke Winternitz.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to speak in front of the forum today. I'm also here to advocate for the Robert Goddard Montessori School. I'm a father of 2 students there. We're new to the school this year, a 3- and 5-year-old, and we're very excited about the school, but we understand the school has some needs. So we're here to ask for a couple of points. One is we would like to ask for funding for training of non-Montessori trained teachers. There has been some small amount of funding, but it has not been enough, and we can't really provide effective Montessori training without trained teachers. And that also goes for Montessori materials. The materials, as other speakers have pointed out, have limited lifetime and can wear out, and it's critical that the materials, in order to provide a Montessori education, that the teachers are trained and the materials are available. Next, again, the student-based budgeting is not equitable for our school. We have 3- and 4-year-olds in the school. 4-year-olds are full-day students, and the student-based budgeting doesn't account for these, and we'd like to ask for them to be counted as well. Finally, we'd like to keep Robert Goddard as a single school in our building. When 2 schools are operating in the same building on different time scales, it's very disruptive. And when half of the school is not familiar faces, this is not a comfortable and safe environment, especially for small children like mine. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker, Jim Cullen.
Good evening, Dr. Maxwell, Mr. Watts, members of the board. Good to see you all again. I just wanted to take advantage of the opportunity and thank you for coming to be able to talk about the budget. And I just want to reinforce some points I've made before the full board. And that is, first of all, thank you for the recent economic agreement for fiscal year 2018. And I'm sure that will be part of the budget. And we also look forward for that progress to be continued and hopefully also included for out years as well. You know, there is really chronic problems with staffing levels, and particularly it's more acute in certain departments. And I think the fairness in this recent agreement and hopefully further progress will help, I think, in that problem, you know, as far as being able to recruit, and there's much room for recruitment there. And school-based budgeting, I heard it mentioned a few times tonight also. I think it's important that, I think flexibility is very important, budgeting and priorities, at the local level, but particularly with the educational support professionals. We represent, as you know, a very wide, diverse group of folks from security services, school clerical, paraprofessionals, transportation, maintenance, et cetera, food service. Really doing every, type of job behind the scenes, making the school system run. And it's important. Some of them, sometimes principals don't necessarily, they might say, oh, this is, that support professional, we'll skimp there, right? But that has an effect. It has people working out of title, et cetera. So, placing some sort of limitations and some core staffing for teaching is very important. I heard class sizes, but also the educational support professionals who support that mission, having proper staffing and minimal staffing at the various schools is also very important. And then finally, the last point I'd like to make is funding relative to our collective bargaining agreement. There are costs in there aside from the obvious ones, the steps and what have you. We have various differentials and things of that nature for folks with certifications and various skills. And so I would hope that in your budget that would be the appropriate folks would calculate those costs out, because we have disputes where, we're told, oh, that's just not funded. Well, it should be funded because it's in our collective bargaining agreement. And when it's, that creates problems. And we're going to represent our folks, and if need to, go to arbitration, and if it's in the contract, we'll win. So let's work those costs into the budget now. It's fair. It's good for the employees who deserve it, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
So that was our final speaker for the evening. As Dr. Watts said, we have other opportunities at budget hearings and meetings in January and February before the Board of Education adopts its budget. We appreciate you coming out tonight to give us your thinking as we craft a budget and get ready to release a budget request. And we appreciate you being being part of the process, and hope that you will continue. I would only add one, caveat or so. You heard Mr. Pfister at the beginning talk about where our revenues come from. We don't generate our own income as they do in some districts. So when we need additional revenue to provide some of the things you're talking about, those come from the county government and the state government by and large. And so we hope that as you advocate before the board and the school system, that you will also let your voices be heard at the county and state level, particularly at this time at the state where they're discussing the Cullen Commission and possible funding in the next year or so that will replace the Thornton funding formula. That will be very important to our future going as they make those decisions. So thank you all for coming tonight. We appreciate that input, and we will do our best to have our budget ready for release.
Yes, sir.
1 month from tomorrow.
Yes. And just to add, while everyone's here in the audience, there's something I wanted to showcase a little bit here at the end. We have a new community input forum, we're calling it. It's going to be available on our homepage tomorrow. So it's very similar. We've always put a survey out this time of the year. We're trying something a little bit different to gather a little bit more feedback. So this is going to be available. We'll be accepting comments on Dr. Maxwell's budget until the 27th. And it's kind of, some key topics here, school facilities, curriculum, maintenance is kind of like, gives you the broad topic. And then if you click through that, then it'll give you, do you have a question, do you have a comment, subject description, who you would like this routed to, and then you have the opportunity to leave your name and contact information. And if you do leave your name and contact information, then you will get a response back. So this is something that's not only available in English, we also have a Spanish version available. So please use it and let us know what you think, and we'll be happy to take your comments. Thank you.
I will just second what a big deal this is and how important it is and how responsive the administration has been to our calls to really make sure that we engage the community in new and different ways. This is a really important addition to that. Please spread the word far and wide about this Let's Talk program that the administration has made available to our community. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you, everyone.